Welcome, everybody. This is the Fall Line with Chaos and Company. And yes, it is just Angelo Ross, my partner in crime, here on Chaos and Company with myself, Dave Capron. And we're here as Angelo is in between spring rally of the PSA Eastern region he just finished up and getting ready to fly again. He's flying west to head out to the National Academy for PSIA AASI, and we want to chat a touch about that, because if we didn't, that'd be a shame, because I know you'll be sending me some pictures, even if the snow sucks. I know you'll be sending me some pictures, Angelo, because you're just going to bust on me. I'll send some pictures back of the nice flowers and all the plants growing in the greenhouse. I go, it's pretty here too, my little solarium. But yeah, I mean, what are you getting ready? What are you taking for skis, man?
It only took me since November, but I got my Anomaly 84s mounted up with Alpine binding. So I'm going to take two sets of Anomaly 84s, the Tele setup and the Alpine setup.
Sweet.
I don't think
awesome.
Can't go wrong with that.
So at Rally, did you do a full day indoor, your anatomy class on Friday?
I did. That was separate from Rally. Yeah, that was just a one day, like a one-off indoor event called Applied Anatomy. I did that on Friday indoors at Sugar Bush, and then the spring rally group was Saturday, Sunday, and we skied. My group wanted to lap bumps on Steins all day. It was great. It was really fun. It's more bumps than I've skied in a long time.
Oh, that's cool. It looked like a big group. And there was a bunch. There was tons of level one, snowboard, ski, I think adaptive. I think there was tele. I think we had all disciplines other than cross country doing level one there.
And then there was CS1. I think there was an FS1, but might not be. I'm not totally sure about that, but I know there were CS1 and CS2 groups. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And hey, what's going on, man? I always want to know. This is my in, and we can let a lot of folks know. National Academy. A lot of people don't know about it. I haven't gone. I know a bunch about it. I wish I could go, but I gotta do the work thing so I can start skiing in November. Right. But what are some of the things going on? It's on hill. You get to ski with national team members, CART national team members, alumni. I know there's some flip flop in terms of morning, afternoon sessions. Sometimes there's indoor stuff. There's so much. I mean, tell us a little bit about what's going on this year.
Yeah, it's great. It's 5 days on snow, so folks will show up on Sunday, and then registration happens, and then the general gathering, particularly for the Alpine groups, because it's the biggest contingent of people. So Sunday night we'll get folks into a room and separate out on how they like what they're looking to get out of the week and whatnot. But then Monday morning, the event begins in earnest. So we'll have Alpine, tele, and adaptive groups at this academy. Rider Rally is being held separately this year to celebrate the 25th year of that event. This is 25 years ago was the first Rider Rally, so it's a big deal for those folks, and they're doing that at Copper Mountain to take it back to its roots. And Nordic Cross Country Academy was held separately because of just different terrain and different time of the year. But yeah, so we'll have Alpine, adaptive, and tele in Big Sky next week. Mondays, pretty much you meet your group, you ski with your group throughout the day, all day, and then Monday night we have a keynote from Dr. Andrew Horrell, who's a buddy of Pete Allison's. He's out of Scotland. Excuse me. And his topic is enhancing learning in snow sports, questions, connections, and quality. And so, excuse me, Andrew's focus is about the importance of asking questions and how we can use that to gather information and make better lessons for folks. Back out on the hill on Tuesday, and then on Tuesday is when some of the electives begin. So typically folks ski with their group in the morning, then have lunch, and then in the afternoon they pick an elective group to go out and bop around with for the afternoon. There's another pretty exciting. I'm excited for this one on Tuesday night. I'm excited for Andrews also, but on Tuesday night we have a second keynote that'll be inside with the full crew, and it's called Teaching and Coaching Insights from the Golf Industry. So two of our colleagues are affiliates from Penn State who are PGA pros. It's Eric Handley and Brian Soule, who work in recreation parks and tourism management at Seven Springs, are going to come give a presentation on Tuesday night about, it's basically similarities and differences between how PGA and PSIA, AASI teach. We had conversations all summer and met with those guys a few times, and it's really cool. From my vantage point, it's a conversation that's a long time coming, because I remember, like, through the years, I don't know if you had these conversations at your home hills throughout the years, but kind of lamenting the fact that we felt as we were only ski instructors in those years, but since then, since adopting all the other stuff, all the other disciplines, kind of lamenting the fact that PGA pros, even though we felt like we were as trained, just got more recognition. But it was a better job, it was a career path, and we were kind of like the bad news bears. So it's really cool to see this conversation starting to happen. And we've Pete Allison and Dave Scholing and I presented to the Philadelphia chapter of the PGA over the summer, and it was just like basically a meet and greet. And it's like, here's what we believe. These are our values, and we showed them the learning connection and Q&A, and the things that we've developed through the years as an association that they think are good and they want to borrow, and then vice versa, looking at the PGA's beliefs and how they structure their curriculum and stuff. And there's certainly some stuff that we can learn from them, and it's really cool to see this partnership happen. And then the remainder of the week kind of plays out like that. Electives, you ski with your group, and fun stuff in the evening, parties, awards. Shout out to Mickey Sullivan from Eastern Region, who will get lifetime achievement at the awards ceremony. That's really cool to see. Mickey worked really hard and paved the way for a lot of us. And yeah, I mean, it's a 5-day educational party conference. See friends, learn things. Either get geared up for summer and next season, or cool off from this season, whatever your flavor is. Like, you can find it there. But yeah, it's an impressive event, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because it's international in a little ways. Because I know Jeff Marks from up in Canada and Perry Schmunk have been there quite a few times, and I wouldn't doubt we haven't chatted with them in a while unless you have. I know I haven't connected with them, but I bet they might be coming.
I'm not. Those guys aren't coming this year, but we do have some folks coming. We have some Australian coaches, and um, so there are representatives from other countries that work in the States, and they're national team members in their countries. So we use some of them for academy. Richard Jameson's one that comes to mind. He's Australian alpine coach, and yeah, so yeah, international element to it. There will be some visiting dignitaries from other associations, and yeah, learning from each other and having a good time.
That's cool. And then all the sponsors are there. Usually all the sponsors and skis and boats and
giveaways, parties, and demo. Carve is doing bringing some gear, and some of the Alpine crew are going to do Carve electives, and then the adaptive crew is going to do Carve electives as well. And so that's the first time I think that's happened at Academy, and it's cool seeing how that branches out, and how that might assist in adaptive lessons as well as Alpine and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, there's too much to do. Like, you have to go 4 or 5 years in a row so you can feel like you covered everything you wanted to do.
Yeah. So I imagine you go visit our Blizzard Technica crew and see that crew, and we should thank them. I mean, they're supporting the channel here, supporting the podcast to keep us going and keep us sliding on snow, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And as you know, and definitely those boots, man. Mr. Nick Blaylock over there at Mount Snow at Nick's Boot Fitting, fitting us up and keeping things going for us is awesome. Yep. And it's getting towards rollerblade season pretty soon.
Yep.
Pretty soon.
I'm looking out the window in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I'd say it's upon us.
Yeah.
Rollerblade season is upon us.
It's getting near here, man. I got piles of snow around, but they're just piles. It snowed all day yesterday, and nothing stuck. It melted when it hit. I know some places. Killington got, I think, 6 to 8. Yeah. But yeah, we didn't get that here. Thank God it kept melting. It was hitting. I don't need it now.
We had a little blast in the morning yesterday, like 30 minutes maybe, and it stacked up on my truck, but it melted by lunchtime. But yeah, it's sunny out. It's a bluebird day, but we still have a fire in the fireplace. Kind of mild temperatures right now for the whole foreseeable future.
Yeah, we were cold this morning. It was 25 was the low this morning here at home. And we're supposed to be cold tomorrow. It's going to warm up a little bit, but it feels chilly. I mean, the wind is howling outside today. So things are tucked away. The houses are closed up and furnaces are running. Sun's out, so they should be getting some heat from the sun now. But hey, I wanted, we got together. We wanted to chat today. We should let folks know what we're going to chat about. We wanted to chat a little bit about kind of the educational pathways and different ways. We focused last time when we were chatting, you and I, about some stuff on the assessments. We did that 2 podcasts ago, and the route to assessment and how to get ready. But I wanted to chat a little more just like real education, like how you put things together. You chatted a little bit about yours, and I wanted to start there again in terms of versus the assessment itself of your telemark level 3. Congratulations, buddy. Pretty awesome there. It's great to have you on the level 3 crew on the telemark stuff. I know you worked hard for that. And I wanted to start there because you had a great pathway. I mean, you were able to get a hold of some pretty talented pros because of where you've accomplished and got to. And a lot of people go, oh, I can't do that. But it wasn't like it just happened by chance. You've worked to create a network, and in your job now you have some access absolutely with the national team. So you did a bunch of skiing with Greg Dixon every chance you could get, and I know with some of the other team members, Rodney and Jim Shaw, I think you get out a bunch. Was there anybody else?
Yeah, Michael Stanley.
Yeah, and I know because I was with you at fall training for Telly out at Rocky Mountain, and we had some alumni, and you jumped. We had some alumni.
Charlie MacArthur at Rocky Mountain training.
Yeah. So and that's a huge advantage in terms of, but it's available, and you had to. It wasn't just like, oh man, I can do this, and it happened easy. I mean, you were out there for some training stuff, and you hung on to go to Rocky Mountain training for Telly because you did Rocky Mountain Alpine. And then stayed for Telly. But, how those resources are pretty amazing, right, man? If you can tap into them, just tell us a little bit about what it's like skiing with those guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, that didn't happen overnight. And I'm certainly, I'm very well aware of how lucky I am to have access to those people you mentioned. And I know that's a unique position to be in. So I'll forever be grateful for that. But to your point about like how that happens, and it like it doesn't happen overnight. It makes me think of my mom when you're saying all that stuff, and I think of my mom. Like for years, when I started getting really into this in the late '80s, early '90s, and the culture then was really different because we weren't paid for every single second of our work day, and we weren't paid to put our boots on, to take our boots off. It was like,
can you believe I get paid for that? I get paid to put my boots on.
And that's it's so different from my early year, all of our early years, I suspect. But like you were paid when you taught, and that was it. But then there was kind of it was an understanding that like, if you weren't teaching, you were going to be out with the other people who were instructors at that time. It just was, it wasn't even unspoken. It was spoken. It's like, oh, you're not teaching. Let's go. It was all unpaid, but it was just cultural. I was so young. I didn't even think that there would even be another option. It's just like, if you're not teaching, you go ski with these guys and train and talk about it and get better. And so I did that for a lot of years. And then I developed enough skill that I ostensibly developed enough skill that somebody thought I could run a group. And so I started to become a trainer on my staff. But like I was in college during those years. And so I'm like, 20, 21, 22, going to class, doing all that stuff. And then in the evenings and on weekends and all that stuff, being at the mountain. And like, I remember, like Wednesday nights, we would have clinics. I'd say to my mom, I got to go run this clinic. And then she'd start to say, like, are you getting paid for this stuff? I'm like, no, like, why? It never dawned on me that like money would have anything to do with it. And you did that for years, So anyway, I'm gonna at some point answer your question. Your question was, how does that pathway happen? Well, I did all this other stuff for decades, like free clinics and driving up, and it was just my lifestyle. It wasn't a job, it was just a lifestyle. And so the reason I'm bringing it all up is because when I got this current job that I have now with the national office, and they're flying me to Colorado in October and November to ski with the national team for team training, or flying me to Vail for midwinter training. And my and my mom, when she's like, "Oh, okay, so there you have a job now and like health insurance and retirement plan and okay, and now they're paying you for your travel to go up." She's like, "Oh, okay, makes sense." Took her 30 years to get it, but that's how long it took. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you only see the tip of the iceberg, but there was, as Pete Howard says, one of my favorite things Pete Howard says is there was a lot of driving at night, man, for the 30 years until this happened. But yeah, and then it culminates in, right, I get to ski with the national team. And that's, I'm like I said, I'm so grateful that it feels like a long slog. It certainly
Mm.
wasn't like I woke up one day and those guys, "Oh, look, you're pretty cool. Why don't you come hang out with us at team training?" It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I had interviewed for this job and got it,"
Yeah. Well,
presumably based on my merit.
yeah. It
Not
goes
sure.
right along. It goes right along the lines with Ellie. We just had Ellie on, and Ellie was talking about that with her path. That man, when she was at Mount Snow, it didn't matter if it was raining, snowing, sleeting. When she had time, she was going to go bug Double D, Doug Daniels, and go, "Let's go. Put your boots on.
Yeah.
Let's go training."
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's kind of the commitment. There's that time, like you just got to get on snow, but you
Mhm.
build those things. And I mean, I know when I was coming up through, when I was working at Gunstock, I was getting great training there. There's a lot of folks around, a lot of level threes. But my move to a different resort where I've been for a lot of years was to try to up the training. Ski with There was some examiners there that I wanted to ski with at the other mountain, and yeah, I made the move because
Yeah.
I needed to do that to continue to get better.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes people can't do that. I mean, sometimes the mountains they want to go to is 5 hours away,
Yeah.
but there are things that sometimes you do, and you like you said, it was a culture. Like we didn't. You went and you get up, you got there in the morning, didn't get paid to put my boots on, which is pretty amazing now. You get your 15 minutes to get your boots on, and get on the hill, and we went and trained for an hour every day,
Yeah.
and then we went and taught, and then if there wasn't lessons or it was the end of the day, we finished up and there wasn't lessons at 2-3 o'clock, you went skiing and skied together,
Mhm. Mhm.
and worked on skiing, worked on teaching. So there's those avenues you got to get out. I know I was chatting with Mr. Waterhouse yesterday, Nate Waterhouse from Attitash, and he was skiing the last day at Wildcat yesterday, the employee day, and him and Kelsey were out, and they were skiing. There was some good snow. They had about a couple inches, I think, from the snow yesterday up there, and so some of the skiing was good. And then there was some moonscape stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I wanted to get on that because I needed that." They were skiing the junkiest snow they could find at the last day of the season, just working on skiing. It's like, I need to figure out how to ski that snow. I mean, it's those opportunities. Last day of the season for them.
Yeah.
It's only employee day. The resort's closed. They're just doing employee day. Other than I think they're going to open for the weekend coming up, but pretty much the end of the season. And he's like, "I'm skiing the junk, the crap."
Yeah. Yeah. I can see taking the opposite approach too. Like, I'm gonna go ski groomers on the last
Yeah,
day, but yeah,
I
no, and I
know.
get it. It's like depends on what your intention is, right? Like
Yeah,
if your intention is to get better and you want to have that final, I don't know, image or final sensation, that final experience kind of locked in your brain throughout the summer, yeah, and then you want it to be skiing on a coral reef. I get that. Like I
yeah,
understand why he would want to do that.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we look at the pathway right now in terms of like you want to become a certified member in the East in the alpine world. Because I look at that the most, my main discipline. The other disciplines might be a little different. Other regions are a little different. So this isn't the exact days and route that everyone takes right now in the country. But level one is kind of our first event that people go to. We do have there is an initial event you can go to that's not required. That's a prep event that started last year or the year before. But you're not required to go. So most people go right to the level one assessment. So we ski with them and score them and score their teaching, and don't really coach because we can coach the group, but we can't coach individuals. So we're really coaching to the tactics, what the activity is, what you got to do to perform it as a, just as a whole. It's not like, hey, Angela, you do this, and Dave, you do this. And then they can go from there. If you're successful at level 1, you then go get ready for level 2 is what people focus on. And here in the East, the number one way people go is they do that CS1 that they ski with our race team. Great accreditation event. CS1, one of our national accreditations, which is another assessment. There is education in our CS1, but it's an assessment event that they're assessed on their children's knowledge and teaching to be able to become accredited as a children's specialist. And if they're successful there, that can be used as their prereq, for the level 2. So then they can move right on to the skiing or the teaching, whichever they choose to do first for the level 2, but then go right to the level 2 assessment and take 2 more days, the ski day and the teach day, for level 2 assessment. So they technically could go 4 events that are all very assessment oriented before they have to, per se, go to an ed event. If they make it through all that and they want to start pursuing level 3, they then can go to they usually, normally we'll do, there's a prereq for the level 3, and that kind of pushes them into more of an ed event. But that's kind of a different route than I did, and what was required years ago. Yeah, I'm getting older. So it was a while. Yeah. But we both went to an ed event, a registration event. There was 2 days that was very educational about the organization, teaching skiing, level 1. At that time, the center line, which we're talking more about the center line now again. But, it was educational. And then we didn't have level 1 at that time. That kind of ages us, back there before 90, I think 94, around 93, 94 was when level 1 came in, went from associate. But then, you and I went the associate route, which we had to do a prereq.
I started teaching in 90.
Yeah.
But I didn't take my level 1 exam until 94. So when I came in, I went right
so you
to
did the level 1.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was still very educational, though, wasn't it? Even to the individuals at that time in the level 1.
Yeah. And I was
way back then.
Steve Moore was my examiner. We were at Timberline, West Virginia. I did the level 1 exam.
Yeah. So I do want to say, that seems to be the route a lot of our members are taking today. They're going the varied assessment route, which is the minimal that you're required to do, which is okay. I mean, and we should say, I believe in the things that I've seen over the years being on the ed staff since the late 90s. And here in the East, and then also on the board just a few years ago. I mean, this has evolved to that kind of format to try to help the members cost-wise is one of the factors, not the only factor, but it's one of them. It's like, it wasn't done to just make it very assessment oriented, it was to try to look at how can people go through this if they want to, because we have other people that yell and scream, which I agree with. I know when they yell and scream and I go, this is so assessment oriented, that they can choose ed events. They don't have to go. They can go to the prep event for level 1, which is a very educational event. It goes through a lot of the beginner zone and goes through, works on your skiing to be able to get prepared to what it takes to get through the assessment of level 1. I wish more people would do that. I wish everybody would do that. I'd like to see everybody successful at level 1. I think level 1 is very, I don't want to say easy, but easy to access, to attain if you do some things to get ready for it. It's not that it's easy. It's just that standard is not level 3 where you're up in the bumps on double black diamond terrain and looking at advanced skiers and digging into some real deep tech. The tech is more general because it's level 1, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's not about easy. It's just, it's not as in depth as level 2 and 3. For example, as we've talked about, you and I, when they do MA, they're not expected to address 3 or more fundamentals, and they're not and through all turn phases of an advanced turn, they're looking at, more of one fundamental through all phases of the turn in beginner zone skiing. is kind of one example. So they're definitely not having to look at things in depth at that level. So I think that's probably a better way to say it than easy. I didn't want to use the word easy, but it's because that's not the, I don't think correct
Well,
way.
yeah, I think of it in terms of like, it's all relative, right? So a level 1 candidate who's adequately trained goes to this certification assessment, and it's a certain level of difficulty for them, right? It's hard for them because they're relatively new to the sport. But I always kind of figured that somebody who was well trained at each level, it would be about the same relative level of difficulty as you progress through, even though the growth excuse me, curve is exponential in the sense that the number of fundamentals that you're expected to have ownership of goes, 1, 3, 5. It doesn't grow like in a linear way. If you're trained for your level 1 exam and you're trained for your level 3 exam and you're ready to roll, I always kind of figured the difficulty would be about the same for each of those people, but they'd be at two pretty different spots on the development pathway.
Yeah, because I think it's tough for folks to, we want to look at like remember the old hour thing? Like what was the hours for going through level 1, level 2, level 3? I know we looked it up and you wrote that down. Why don't we let folks know what were the hour? These were recommended numbers that PSA here in the East. I know it was the East. It used to be in our Eastern exam guide. I don't know if it was national. Other regions might have had different, but I know here for us, these were the numbers.
Right. Yeah. And it was, it was kind of recommended, right? Because back in the day when this stuff was published, you needed a director's signature. So there was a gatekeeper there who would vouch for your amount of training. But at level 1, it was 50 hours of combined training and teaching at the appropriate level, 50 hours. That's 6.5 days worth of work, 6.25 days worth of work. So that's like, you imagine if you were going to go for a training that long, it would be 40 hours one week. And then the next week you would go Monday and then 2 hours on Tuesday. That's how long 50 hours is. And that would be like dedicated to training, right? Just to give perspective on that. Level 2 was 150 hours and level 3 was 300 hours. And the recommendation at level 3 within that 300 hours was that 150 of those hours would be teaching at the advanced levels. So that would be 150 hours of lessons on black terrain and bumps and a race course, whatever advanced means. But that those were the recommendations: 50, 150, 300.
Yeah. And we don't have those now because we don't have that gatekeeper of the director's signature, which is understandable of how certification is used at so many resorts for pay scales and possible raises. So you can't hold people back in terms of opportunity.
Right.
But
it was a labor law thing that you can't prevent somebody from trying to better their work situation. So it makes sense why it doesn't exist anymore. But I think the idea behind it, the spirit behind it was that like, hey, this is about what you can expect to have to do to get ready for this next level of certification. I think there was a lot of value in it that way. And if you think about the 300 hours, now think about this. This would be after you're already level 2. Mm-hmm. So you have already done your 50 hours, on or about to earn your level 1. And then however long it took you to do the 150 hours of education and training and work to get ready for level 2, you'd have that under your belt. So for level 3, there would be an additional 300 hours on top of that recommended. 300 hours is 7.5 weeks of if you think of a 40-hour work week, that's 37 days plus 4 hours. So if you think about like how many days do you work in January? It's 31 days. Say you work 28 of those days because it's the busy season and you're making money. 28 days of January, okay, plus 9 days of February, And then 4 more hours on top of that would be the 300. But that would be dedicated to training and teaching at that level 3 level.
Yep.
That's what 300 hours looks like if you can do it all in one shot.
Right.
But 37 days plus 4 hours, if you're like, say somebody right now is interested in level 3 and they have an 18-day commitment at their home hill to earn their pass and have the job, and they're spending the majority of those 18 days of commitment teaching kids or teaching at the lower levels of the sport, how long would it take somebody in that situation with an 18-day commitment to get the 300 hours or the 37 days plus 4 hours of recommended exposure at the level 3 level to actually prepare for that certification? It would take years. It would take years to make it from level 2 to level 3. Years to get that 300 hours. Yeah.
And you got to do it to get good at it. Like everybody has a different rate they learn and how fast we get good at things, but presenting information like and understanding like what you see in front of you, like the different students, like you go out and you can have a great lesson today, had a bump lesson, and man, unbelievable. These people were great. Everything I said they did. And then you go out the next day, I'm doing another bump lesson and like nobody's getting anything I'm doing. Like, why don't they get it? They were doing it yesterday. They're not doing it today. These are different people because you get different students. And I think that's what people are missing. Like you can't substitute for experience especially when it comes, I believe when it comes to teaching, because the more I teach, the better I get at it. Cause I'm challenged at times. I mean, if you're not challenged at times, you must not be aware because we get different people, different snow surface. The weather's different. I mean, think about Raleigh. You had some pretty fun weather at Raleigh some of the time, didn't you?
It was, there was like this, it was amazing. This mist that just hung. I don't know how it just hangs, but it just hung. And then on one of I really had a great group over the weekend. We had a ball like that. I really like these people. We had a fun time skiing with this guy, Paul from Bel Air, and we're going up the lift and we're passing one lift tower and we're looking up the hill and it's so foggy. Yeah. The next lift tower starts to creep into sight. Like you could start to make it out through the fog. And this dude goes, "Oh, it's not that bad. I can almost see that lift tower now." And I bumped him with my elbow, and I'm like, "That is the most East Coast thing I've heard in a long time." Yeah, it was a very East Coast skiing weekend.
Yeah, and you've got to keep the energy level up. You've got to, it's so nice to have some folks that don't get down on that, but sometimes you do, and it's like that whole ability to motivate and to keep the energy going when the weather, it can go the other way too versus the rain. We can have a day where it's so damn cold you can't feel your feet 5 minutes after you've been outside. How do you keep the group moving? I mean, all that stuff, it's like you can't just snap your fingers and be good at all those situations. That's why I tell you, and I tell my dev team crew, there is no way that I go out on the hill and look at that level 3 assessment form and nail it with 5s and 6s on every single one. I question myself whether sometimes if I hit everything at a 4 and do I put myself at that level 3 standard? Cause like, it's just time. The lift stopped. The lift didn't stop. Did I give enough feedback that run? It was cold. So I had 8 people in the group. I think I gave 6. I think I nailed it on 6 and then 2 I didn't. I was rushing because everybody was freezing all of a sudden. And I keep moving. I mean, it's so tough to be, but the experience definitely helps. I mean, then you start going, okay, I got to make sure because I got more time when I go out after this run, after we warm up. Joe and Pete, I got to make sure because I didn't really get to them on that last run. I'm going to make sure I get to them on this run, but sometimes I think that's people, I know those things get missed just because you're not into it. You're not doing it. I mean, I think about it when I hit the December. I'm not as good as I am, say, a couple weeks after because we're rusty. When I haven't been teaching all summer, it might be on the mind. We're sitting here, we're talking on the podcast in the fall, but we're not in front of 8 or 10 people and banging away, making sure we see what they're doing, stopping in the right spot. Do I get down there and I see this one, that one? Did I get everybody? I mean, you get back into it pretty quick.
Yeah.
But that's experience. And I think people need to look at how much time am I doing? Like you said, how much are you teaching at the advanced level to be able to then go be assessed at this level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and geography plays a role in it. Like how busy you are plays a role in it. Like these hills where I live are, 700 feet big. Hidden Valley is about 400 vertical feet. Like the lifts are pretty slow, and there's no pitch and there's no length. So it's like I could take 20 runs in a day, maybe at Hidden Valley. If I'm not teaching, if I'm just there skiing, I could maybe say take 20 runs on 400 vertical feet. So I'm going to get 8,000 vertical feet in a day, but on very, very minimal pitch and probably with no bumps, right? It's essentially 8,000 feet of run out at some resorts. Like you go to Big Sky and the run outs are steeper and longer than the actual hills at Hidden Valley. That's just a fact of geography. So I could take 20 runs at Hidden Valley and ski essentially Big Sky run out, versus going to Big Sky and taking, 2 or 3 laps off the tram in a day, or 2 laps off the tram and six laps off the Swift Current lift. And I'm going to be up around, I don't know, I'm guessing now 25,000 vertical feet, but of actual pitch and bumps. And so, yeah, those are 2 very different experiences. Those days are 2 very different experiences. But if you're, say you're training for level 2, it doesn't matter the discipline, any discipline, 8,000 vertical feet at a place like Hidden Valley in a day versus 20,000 vertical feet at Big Sky are very, very different experiences.
Yep.
And so I think, that's something that it's hard to consider. A lot of people don't really leave my area too much. They don't travel a lot. They might get a chance to go on vacation, but by and large, you're at a terrain disadvantage. And that's another factor that impacts how, unfortunately, how exam results play out. But it's true.
We look at level 1 probably has, if we're honest, to get ready for level 1, we probably have the least amount of educational opportunities in terms of on snow for a direct, like, this is a path to go to level 1, where level 2, I mean, I guess the folks, a lot of our members, if they come in and become members before they go to level 1, just become, what do we call it, associate members or whatever it's called here in that there are educational events they go to, but there's more directed educational events for our level 2 in terms of dynamic blues, MA 101, those kind of events that are more directed to that. Also not just beginner, but also intermediate. So there's definitely some pathways that I think people could create that I wish they did. I know we all, and I completely admit it, man. When I look back at what I had to do, I did what was required because I get it. I was 22, 23, 24 coming through my certs and teaching, and we were getting paid. I don't know. I remember the first year I got like $4.75 an hour to teach skiing, and we didn't get, if we got 4 hours, that was a big, that was the teaching you got for the day, sometimes 4 or 5 hours tops. And then we trained the rest of the day, went out skiing. Like you said, we were getting paid. Some days you went in and you did your main 3 hours at 10 to 1, and that was what the lessons were. You had to teach, when you're teaching full time Monday through Friday also, it was what came up, but it was, but I get when people do what's required, but like when I look at the success rates, I believe we have to keep somehow encouraging people to realize what PSA and Aussie really is an educational organization. We have to have our cert. We have to have validation of what we're teaching. I believe in the certification process. So like, if you don't have some validation of what good teaching is to validate what we do to those out there going, these are the people that are teaching at this level, you need that. But I still believe that most of the work I do is educational, even as many assessments as I do, that it's educational. And I hope people will look at some of those pathways, the MA 101, the dynamic blues. And there's a couple other intro and intermediate bumps. Those are two good ones, the intro and the intermediate to go to level 2 events for the skiing. And like you said, if they're especially those that are terrain deficient or have just access issues in terms of trainers, whatever, those are some of the avenues that you're probably going to have to take to get success. Because I have to be honest, like, I don't understand going to assessment after assessment and not being successful at 2 or 3 assessments in a row and just signing up for another assessment. The feedback I give at the end is, I believe, good feedback, but it's like 10 minutes of what your overall day was. It isn't that I'm coaching you. I'm just giving you feedback on how you performed. I'm not coaching you like I could coach you all day long. There's no way I can give the same amount of education. I could talk to them for an hour on the feedback, but it's still not the same thing as getting to be able to be on the hill doing an educational event for a whole day or 2 days.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I hope the culture, like you said earlier, the culture, how do we get that culture going, Angelo? I think the first way is just talk about it.
Well, yeah. And I, it's interesting. This conversation is like, we're talking about the pathway and in super general terms, but
right.
Like we can flip that too and talk about individuals. And like you are an instructor, I'm an instructor. We both made choices and here we are. But like when one decides that one is going to become a teacher of anything, there's a responsibility that you take on when you do that, because all of a sudden your skill, your ability, your skills and abilities are now going to be used to help some other person, presumably get to where you are, right? There's a responsibility that people take on when they say, I want to be a teacher. No different than I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be an attorney, whatever. You incur this responsibility, but along with that responsibility comes autonomy, because you are the teacher. You're the one making the decision. We're working with the people in front of you and whatnot, but ultimately you're the authority and in that lesson because you're the instructor. So I think we all, like, individually need to ask ourselves, what kind of teacher is it that I'm going to be? And I don't know that that's common. Like, I don't know that I did. I'm sitting here. I don't want people to think like I thought this. I'm old now and I can look back and say these things. But that, like you said, we can hopefully, inform other people on some of these ideas. When I decided to be a ski instructor, it wasn't to, what was foremost in my mind was not the responsibility I was about to have to all these people I was about to ski with. I wanted a jacket because they were cool. I wanted a locker because I didn't want to carry my stuff around. I wanted to ski better. I could recognize that there were people in those jackets skied a lot better than I did, and I wanted some of that. But like the part about, helping others was not probably in the top 3 or even 4 of my list. I wanted a place to party too, because I was a college kid. But as you get older, you start to look at things differently. But the point I'm making is that, like, I didn't think about the responsibilities when I wanted the job. I just wanted the cool job. You know what I mean?
I wanted to ski for free.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, but you do take on a responsibility. And so we're sitting here talking about the pathway. I think people who are going to people who are going to do this and want to get better at it need to think about what their pathway is going to be. Like, what's my pathway? Because I suspect we all want the autonomy part.
Yeah.
Do you want the responsibility as much as you want the autonomy? And we all should. Like, it's only fair to the people we ski with that we take the responsibility as seriously as we take the autonomy. Because if you only take the autonomy seriously and you don't fulfill the responsibilities of actually learning about the sport and learning how to teach the sport, those are 2 different things. you're just up there probably pontificating your biases and your opinions. And they may or may not be grounded in effective movements, effective teaching strategies. But those folks who take the responsibility as seriously as they take the autonomy, that's a true lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And those are the folks who are like, oh, well, I could go in and get beers now with the crew, or I could go to this clinic that, you know, whoever, J Nation popped into my head. J Nation's doing this clinic from 3 to 4. And yeah, I'm pretty tired, but I'll probably pick up a nugget. So I'm gonna do that and then go have the beer. Like,
Yeah.
it's that kind of it's that sort of responsibility slash autonomy conversation that I think if people had more with themselves, they may not get on that thing that we're identifying as the pathway, which, as you
Yeah.
described, is 4 assessments before you actually take an educational event. That's just an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have the opportunity to do that, but why would you do it?
Yeah.
Take some educational events, fulfill the responsibility part first, and then go get your pin. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because there's stuff that, and I'll say it, man, because at times we have to, not at times, we defend the organization a bunch of times, even though you and I can criticize it, because that's kind of our roles, and not necessarily criticizing, but coming up with like, what can we do better? I mean, we're always doing that in our job. My coach job and being on the steering committee and being an ed staff member, I'm always trying to come up with, how can we do it better? But there are things the organization here in the East, I know, because I'm working that more. You see a lot more of the national stuff and even the other regions, but like the mentor program we have here in the East, I think is cool.
Mhm.
I mean, that's grown and really helped a lot of folks out that might be at that resort that they don't have a lot of trainers. Even if they do, it's definitely someone in particular they're connected with that they can ask questions. And it's always someone that's not at their resort. So like you said, it gives them a different perspective from someone somewhere else if they don't get away from their resort much. So that's, and a lot of information comes in if the area rep program, if Joan Heaton started that, and now Pat from down at Pat's Peaks running that. That puts a ton of information out there. If you have an area rep, you should jump on it, man. Those area reps, it's amazing. Sometimes the stuff they know more than some of the ed staff sometimes because they're getting information coming straight from the CEO, going into the area rep program leader and that kind of stuff. So it's really cool.
Well, and I wanted to say that reminded me, like, that teaching can, and that's not, I don't know that, like, when I decided I wanted to be a ski instructor, I don't know that I equated that with being a teacher,
Yeah.
but it really is. I mean, you are a teacher, and it can be, and a lot of times it is, in my experience. It's a pretty lonely profession. It's a very
Yeah.
solitary profession. It is, because like when you're alone in a room with kids and you're the only adult in a room full of hormones and BO and whatever else, kids have, like, you feel pretty isolated, like, because you're the only adult. You have no peers in the room. And that's kind of a truism of teachers. So there is this real individual piece to it. It's really hard. It can be, I have found it through the years to be a blessing and a challenge. But what I'm getting at, and this is to your point, now you've got these you can form your own little community. And I think that's a great idea. And as a snow sports instructor looks around and identifies people who are, oh man, that person appears to be pretty good at this. I would like to tap into some of that knowledge. Or, oh, check this mentor program out. It's online, but I'll talk to this person, I don't know what, twice a month, and just check in and see how things are going. You start to put your own little learning community together that supports you and you support it. And that's very helpful. I had colleagues at the high school when I taught there that I talked to often. And when I had problems, occasionally you have a victory, and a lot of times you have a rough day, and go in and check in with these people. I had my own little tiny cohort of, I don't even know if they knew they were my cohort, but they were the people that I gravitated towards. And you can do that as a ski instructor and put that together to aid in your development. And then with the beauty of Zoom and everything else is they don't all have to be from your home hill, like you said. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, you missed the call last night because you were doing some stuff, but we had the call last night. That was our cohorts last night.
Yeah.
There was it wasn't all 14 of us. I think there was about 9 or 10, but that was the cohorts, and they're from New York and PA, and it was our bourbon call night, and we were just on there trying to figure out stuff in our job, man. We were talking about what we're teaching, how the assessments went this year, like how we scored stuff, how we looked at the criteria. Yeah, and that was just us doing that on our own. That was I think it was 9 of us on last night chatting about that and bitching at each other.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that was our little community that we've put together, that even in the end staff, we have the crew we hang out with, that we kind of, because we're in our little bubble. Even if we're at an event with 8 staff members, I get my group in the morning and I'm out working with my group for 2 days. I'll see the crew at breakfast and dinner, maybe if we're all staying there.
Right.
But I'm out there with my group. You're out there with your group. You know, people think we ski together all the time. We ski with the members more than we ski with each other on the staff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But that's a big thing, is to put, you know, to have a group together. Some people call them training groups. Some it's just the ones you sit around and talk about skiing. Those are the ones you take those last 2 runs at the end of the day when you only have, it's 3:15. We can get 2 more runs, and if we go quick, who's going? You know, it's that kind of group. And, you know, then there's the questions. I've been getting them a bunch this spring. You know, from members, a few from my dev team, but definitely from the members also. Like, how do I work on things? How do I keep my training going over the summer? And it's like, well, number one, and we got to put this one out there. We have to put it out there. Number one, you got to get off the couch. You got to be active. I don't care if it's just walking. It's not like you have to go run a marathon.
I feel like you're talking directly to me right now.
but we do. You know, I mean, we are in a sport, and I love saying Pete Howard's thing there, that this is a sport, and at some point you must participate to do this. So that, like, yeah, it's just number one. Like, if we look around and look at some of the major issues with ski performance, in my view, a lot of it is just based on lack of flexibility and movement and the ability to ski more than 2 hours at a time.
Yeah.
Like the ability to ski all day. There's a certain, and I think that goes up. Like when I ski in a lower end event that I'm skiing on green circle and blue square stuff, I don't have to work as hard as if I'm out skiing a bump event for 2 days. So as it ramps up from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, the level of performance in terms of the dynamics that you have to put into your skiing to make it work, you've got to be in good shape. Like, you've got to be in a certain level of shape to make it happen. And I do not feel, I'm going to say it real straightforward, I do not believe most people are coming to the level 2 and 3 assessments with that kind of physical readiness to be able to ski all day at that level that they're being certified for. They definitely, it would help them and help their performance, help their success. Number one, if they just were in better physical shape, because this is a sport. You're out there performing.
Right. I mean, if you want to play with perspective too, like I said, when I took the job, I don't know how you thought about it, but when I became a ski instructor, I didn't necessarily equate that in my mind with being a teacher. But I feel like we are teachers. Another way to look at that is, not only are we teachers, we're gym teachers.
Yeah.
We're physical educators. You know, and Ned Crossley from the Eastern Examiner says that all the time. Ned was a civilian instructor at West Point for his career, taught gymnastics to cadets at West Point. And he says it all the time. We are physical educators. And if you ever spend some time going down that rabbit hole, like, go online and search for professional development for physical educators, and you start to come across articles like philosophy of sport and what are your responsibilities to humankind as a physical educator, mind, body, spirit stuff, and connection to place, and all those high ideas. And certainly, like, that's all fair game when you start to think about what sort of snow sports instructor you're going to be. You can go on websites and find games and activities that phys ed teachers use in schools and see how you can modify those for your for your lessons. And I've done that. You can learn a great deal from then. A lot of it's free. It's super easy to find. But then you can go down the rabbit hole as deeply as you want when you start to look at philosophy of sport and why it's important to connect to, the mind, body, spirit connection and everything that comes along with that. But certainly being in physical shape to do the job is part of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You got to, and I see it so much. It's like just flexibility, the ability to have the range of movement, range of motion to make these things happen, but then have the cardio and the endurance for the day to ski. Like if you need to take a nap when we hit lunch, go to bed earlier the night before, or maybe come in better shape.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely, I mean, that's one that you can take ownership of.
I know why you're saying this too. You're saying this because it bothers you to have to give people bad news.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yes.
No examiner, assessor, no examiner in this association enjoys giving people bad news. Who would enjoy that? It's terrible for everybody. It's terrible for everybody. We would much rather deliver good news.
Yeah.
And so, yes, please, we're in your corner.
Yes. Yeah. We were just talking to Chris Erickson, and he's already, he's lining up. We've got a couple rollerblade events, and he's probably going to be one of the coaches that I'm down there. I think they're probably going to do it again. I don't know for a fact. He was just saying they get lining a couple up. I would imagine it might be joined up with the Big Snow again. But they're definitely going to be a rollerblade event. A couple of them this summer, July and August. I think he's going to be working with rollerblade that are events. Get some rollerblades, get a rollerblade, get on a bike, Gettysburg bike there, Gettysburg bike right here. I got my sweatshirt on. He'd love to sell you a bike, but it's just to be active, to flexibility, do some stretching. By God, buy a book. You want to buy a book? Buy Sue Kramer's Be Fit to Ski book and read that sucker, to look at it, to know. I mean, she's got in there evaluation and it looks at it like an athlete, to like, what parts are you missing? Where do you need to work on your flexibility, your strength? I mean, she got a master's degree and part of it was writing that book. It's like, there's good information there. There's one resource in the physical realm. And then, Mr. Rogan's been on here with us, and how many times has he chatted about, it's not about memorizing the manuals, but you got to open them and read them, and you get access to them. You paid for them. You get the electronic version of all the important ones. You get your tech, you get your snow sports teaching, you get the kids manual. You paid for them. They weren't free. Your dues and your membership pays that you can get them electronically to read them. The snow sports teaching is probably, in my view, the best manual that I've seen come out of PSIA. I mean, amazing information. It's not memorize it, but Michael talks about it like you need to know. Remember, he talked about page 46. Page 46, we had to go look, and it was polls on there, but we busted about polls. But it was, you need to know what's in there and then learn how to apply that on the hill. It's not about memorizing what's on the pages. How do you then take that, apply it, put it into your own teaching to help people get better? It's learning the material to then apply it. Like you're saying, like, how do we get out there with the gym teachers, the motor learning's part of it. You can go online, and how many things can they get in learning theory and motor learning and all the things that the activities, like you said, will be there, that they don't even have to come up with them. Go on there and steal them off. They're all free.
And there you're talking about the responsibility part, the preparation for the job kind of part, but then going out and field testing it. And, you read something in a manual, go, well, that's a pretty cool idea, or that's a pretty cool activity. I'm going to try that over this weekend or throughout this week with my students and see how it works for me. And maybe it works great. Maybe you have mixed results. Maybe it bombs you, but at least you've got the experience, and then you can truly be autonomous with that experience, and reflecting back on that experience as, it worked in this situation better than that situation. You put that in your back pocket, but you're a better teacher for it, and that's where the rubber meets the road. It's when you're teaching your lessons, but certification exams really get most of the shine. So if you want to equate it to that, situation. Then say you do that, you read the manual, you test this idea, and you say, okay, well, I had this was these were the results when I tested this idea. And then you find yourself in an exam on a chairlift ride with the examiners, and they say, well, you know, do you use this at home? How does it go? And you go, yeah, well, yeah, I read it in the manual and I tried it. I tried it this way and that way. It seemed to work with this type of student. That's passing. Like that's how you pass.
Yeah.
Right. But it's based on hard work and then field testing, reflection, and then you're ready. But you gotta do the preliminary work first.
Yep. And just a lot of stuff along the way that they can go back. Like listening, it's so interesting that not every country looks at skiing exactly the same. Like Michael talks about, some countries, use more rotation. Some countries use, different applications, more carving on piste. Some like the off piste. We're very versatile here in the US and look at performance skiing, not just on groom, but in the off piste. And looking at how skiing can be applied in different realms.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one way. I mean, there's definitely, like, our 5 fundamentals are so cool because in the alpine world, because they can apply to any range of skiing.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not like this is the only way to ski. You can adapt those to ski in different places on the mountain, which I think is so cool. I think that's one of the best things that came out of our thought process since I've been a member, is like, there's not like the PSIA way to ski. It's like we have these fundamentals that show good skiing in all different realms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we have a curriculum, right? And you don't even have to. You don't have to leave the country to do what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, you can do it at your home resort, and if there's no relationship between the snow sports school and the patrol at your hill, like, see if you can make that relationship happen. Go out and see if you can clinic with patrollers. They talk about skiing very, very differently than instructors do, and snowboarding. They talk about the sports differently because they have a different language. We have a vocabulary. I tell this to my groups all the time. Like, we can be on a chairlift and I can say inclination and angulation to you, and you know exactly what that means. But if I say that to a chair full of patrollers, they don't have the same reference. So I have to figure out ways to explain those concepts to them. But you can flip the script on that too. Go out and get trained by them and see what words they use, see what their beliefs are. You could, if there's no relationship between your snow sports school and your race club on your hill, form that relationship. Go out and ski with race coaches. They talk about skiing and snowboarding differently than ski instructors do. Like, you can get these different vantage points and these different philosophies of snow sports without having to leave the country. You can do it right at your home hill. I know the shop guys at the local ski shop go out Friday mornings. They go out and rip lap. They always invite, hey, why don't you come with it? Go out and listen to how shop employees talk about skiing and what they value and how they do it. And you watch a ski instructor ski down a hill and then watch a shop employee come down right after, but it's a pretty different life.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's just like, what are you going to expose yourself to? Who are you going to get to know? And then you don't have to be like a dork with your notepad, but just sort of, making mental notes about the way they talk about it. No, that's interesting. Never thought of that. Or, boy, I feel like they're really missing this whole idea. I could tell them this stuff, but yeah, that's how, as a teacher, you can broaden and deepen your pool of knowledge. It's all fair game,
Well, it's like carve. You mentioned carve earlier, and I got big into carve. I did it with my Pro Jam group and got connected with them through Kevin Jordan, which was cool because when it went away from the footbed, when they had the pressure footbed, I wasn't going to mess with my boot. Carve could have been, I could have had every student coming and having carve, but if I had to put that footbed in there, I didn't want to mess with my boot once I had it right. Their new sensors have opened up to make it so easy for people to put on that I knew we would see many more people using that. Many more instructors, but also people coming to take lessons. Not like we're seeing hundreds right now coming to take lessons, but it's amazing how many people I've talked to at different resorts. There's been an instance where somebody has come in, has carve, and wants to buy a regular lesson and actually wants to, do you have a pro that can help me with the data to understand what this is doing? And that's the thing. It's like just having, some of the things that you can try out there. Like, and I've been pretty impressed, man. The carve data is really cool. It's really, it tells me when my skis aren't parallel, it doesn't lie.
Yeah. Right.
And when my skis don't tip at a continuous rate, it tells me that too. And that that percentage and number goes down, but it really, it cues you in to some things. And, I got some questions from a few even staff members like, yeah, but is it going to make your skiing better? And like, I had just started using it back in December and I said, I don't know yet. And I think it does in terms of how you use it. You can use it, and many people use it different ways in terms of what their outcome they want, what kind of, whether they want to be on carve or bumps, on the groom. I mean, carving on the groomed or bump, but it gives you great data. And I'm psyched that I get on it because it's pretty amazing. The level of performance it does show, and it isn't just all speed. You can ski a really good parallel turn at a moderate speed and get a really high score if you're doing the right movements. It does have a lot of good data in it. But if I hadn't tried it, I wouldn't have known.
And I don't necessarily want to ski like that all the time, like,
right.
But when people ask you if it's going to make you a better skier, I think absolutely yes. Anytime you can manipulate your movement pattern purposefully to do something, and then you're certainly welcome to go back to what you were doing before. But yeah, just by manipulating your movement pattern, you get better,
Yeah.
And another thing you can do, and I've been thinking about this for next season quite a bit, and Michael talked about this on the show, is skiing different types of skis. Like I haven't had a slalom ski for a handful of years, so I'm going to get a slalom ski next year. I'm not crazy about it. I want to ski like that. Like that's not the point of it. The point is for me to develop into somebody who can manipulate that slalom ski. And then I'm going to take it off and go back to my 74, 75 underfoot or whatever. But like you can ski different types of skis, and now the whole market, it's like pushing like the mountain bike industry pushed toward those mid fats and all that jazz. And everybody's on these, 3-inch wide tires. Now everybody's like on 84 or 90 underfoot. Well, that's great, but get something that's 69 underfoot and something that's 80 underfoot and ski those too, mix them in, and learn another discipline. You brought up the telly thing. Learning another discipline is like learning another language, and skiing down the hill on your alpine skis with the inside leg in your way. And the limiting factor in a ski turn is the inside leg. You got to get it out of your way. On alpine skis, you bring it up, and on telly skis, you bring it back. Well, that's both directions. Like if you can get some ownership of both of those sports, it's going to make you better at both of them. So there's all kinds of ways you can manipulate your experience to develop you're developing as a learner, and that is direct application to being a teacher.
Yeah. And we get the question, as we get ready to close here is like, I think the big question, which it's a good one, is like, how do I improve my movement assessment skills? How do I get my movement analysis to be better? And for me, the couple big things are you got to get a deeper technical understanding of what the outcome is. So if you're trying to get a parallel turn, if it's a parallel turn on groom, what are the outcomes there? And then what does it go to biomechanics, like the tech piece in terms of not just it's about what my ski needs to do, but also what the body needs to do to get the ski to do that. So it's understanding biomechanics and understanding what the outcome, what does it take? What does the ski have to do to get that outcome? And then it becomes easier to start picking things out. It's not just to like, give me 3 things to look at. Like that's what people I think want us to do. Like, what are the 3 things you look at in a wedge turn? It's like, well, there's more than 3. But we're looking at ski performance and body performance in the big realm, but you're looking at body performance, yes, in the fundamentals, but it's the mechanics of the body that makes those fundamentals come alive. And I think that's where people need to dig in, like understand how joints work, how the legs work. And that's where it goes back to, like, for performance wise, like you said, you want to be right out there with the physical. I said, yeah, I want people to be in better physical shape because they're not able, a lot of them, to turn their legs separate because of some physical stretching, physical range of motion issues. When you have a tight back, it's pretty hard to create inclination and angulation in the body. You can create inclination, but you don't get a lot of combination of angles.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think the big word for the day though, Angela, you said it, was, take responsibility. The responsibility that a teacher needs to take, that we need to take our own responsibility and like try to find ways that we can get better. And there's so many ways and different things we can do to continue to learn and grow.
Well, and I agree with that. And I think, I would like to add to that, because this is something that I could have done much better at when I was a training manager. As I look back on those years, I don't know that I did a really good job of showing instructors, new ones and experienced ones, like, what are we actually selling here? Like, I guess I just assumed people knew what good skiing looked like. But if I had it all over to do again, I think with an incoming group like freshman instructors, I'd take the time to sit down and show them video of, like, this is what a great wedge turn looks like. And those videos are available. You can use the Matrix or whatever. And when we say wedge Christie, this is what it looks like. So you just watch what the inside leg's doing. And Christie means this. Like, just take the time to get all that stuff clear, so they have an image in their minds to compare the performance they're seeing in their lessons to. And then they have something to shoot for. Like, I know I didn't do a very good job of that when I was a training manager, but I think that's step one. You actually know what it should look like, or what it could look like when it's athletic and graceful and balanced. And then to your question about MA, that's step one. You have to know what we're looking for,
Yeah.
And then it takes a lot of practice. It just absolutely takes a lot of practice, because people can move very, very differently to try to move very differently to get the same outcome.
Yeah.
So you're watching all these complex different movement patterns, and then you've got, they're all in different boots with different amounts of forward lean that can come into play. And so, there's a billion factors. You have to study the sport, understand it, practice, trial and error, and be patient and take time. I totally understand wanting the pay raise. And believe me, I totally understand wanting the shiny pin. I totally get that. But you have to develop too. You have to be patient and take the time to have the chops to wear that pin. And then it all works out much better.
And then you got to keep the shine on it after you have it.
Yeah, I'm right.
Like, you're not done when you get it. Like, you got to keep working to make sure you stay there and get better.
Got to maintain it. Mm-hmm.
You got to maintain it, man. Got to maintain it. But hey, this was cool. I wanted to chat with you, which is great, before you went to Academy. I hope you say hello to everybody out there. I imagine you'll see Ellen and Ellie and a bunch of the rest of the crew, Mr. Coach Rogan, and all that crew out there. Hopefully you see the Telly crew. Hopefully you see, I imagine those guys. The Telly's going to be there at Academy, right? They're doing the same.
Keith and Michael are going to be there.
Cool.
Looking forward to seeing those guys. And I just saw Keith he was at Sugarbush when we were for Eastern Spring Rally. So see those guys on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm already looking forward to Rocky Mountain telemark ed staff training in the fall. That'll be, unless I go to Big Snow, that'll be my first days on snow, at least my official winter first days outside on snow. Looking forward. That was fun last year.
Yeah. So you have all summer to get your ass off the couch.
That's right, man. I got to get ready for that. I got to get on the bikes and
do some lunges.
Do some lunges to get those legs ready to go. Maybe we'll take, if we go to Big Snow, we'll take our Telly gear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no doubt.
That's what I did last time. We'll take the Telly gear if we go down to Big Snow.
Sure. Sounds good.
Do that there. Mm-hmm. We got to try to hit Big Snow more than once. Well, I know you do, but I got to try to hit it more than once before, not just the October ski day that we do with the staff. And I missed that last fall. Yeah. So we got to try to hit that more than once down there. But
meet there, and then we'll go get a noodle bowl in the food court.
We'll get a noodle bowl. You can go shop for some Vans shoes and for your skateboarding.
Yep.
It is fun down there, man. Mm-hmm. But hey, thanks everybody. And as Angela always says, thanks to our 2 listeners.
Yep. Both of you. Thanks for tuning in, both of you.
And we definitely want to thank our sponsors, man. The Blizzard Technica crew, and that whole thing's been awesome. And Nick Blaylock over at Nick's Boot Fitting, and the crew over there. This is the time to start thinking, man, when are you going to get your boots done for next year? What boots you're going to go in? and those guys will help you out in the fall. You got to have the boots got to be right, got to be ready to go. And I got to tell you, Angelo, that new one, like the Mach 1, the new one with the new 2.0 T drive on it, that thing was killer this winter. Awesome boot. I'm psyched that I was able to ski it this season, and it's out there. And I hope some folks, if they like the Mach 1, the Technica series, they jump in that because it's definitely killer. So,
all right.
But hey, have fun at Academy. And we'll probably chat at least through text as you're out there, and definitely send some pictures of some snow that you can rub it in that you're skiing.
Yeah, certainly rub it in. No question about that.
All righty, man. This has been the Fall Line with Chaos and Company.